Oh, Yelena, I am so excited to welcome you to LinkedIn Live. And I just want to tell some people about you. But first off, welcome. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It's fantastic to be here. So nice to meet you.
Yes. So, folks, you need to know who Yelena is because she has this amazing background of over 20 years in procurement analytics, management consulting, customer relationship management experience. She has worked with Fortune 100 organizations in health tech, fintech, and other industries, as well as state, local, and federal government organizations. Now, Yelena began her career with Mitchell Madison Group as a consultant and then transitioned to data analytics world, working with Silver Oak Solutions on various technology platforms. Now, before she joined ProcureAbility, Yelena was the Director of Customer Success at Electrify AI, responsible for delivering AI spend analytics solutions to customers, which is why she's our expert on using procurement data analytics to shape your AI future. Now, pretty impressive, Yelena holds a BS in chemistry and a BA in Russian literature from Brown University. She lives in Massachusetts with her two daughters, Michelle and Maya, and enjoys traveling, trivia, and game nights with her friends. Yelena, pretty impressive resume you have there.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
So we're going to talk about AI and why organizations are or are not ready to embrace AI. So my first question to you are, things are evolving quickly in our current market environment, but at least for the last couple of years, a lot of conversations around procurement data analytics have centered on emerging technologies and specifically AI. But I know, and not all procurement organizations are ready to embrace it. So can you share, what do you think some of the reasons for it? Because I thought we were past the hype, but we're still not getting a lot of folks embracing it. So
absolutely, Dawn. And there are, of course, many different reasons. And of course, it differs across different companies. But a lot of times what we're hearing from clients is that they're having some challenges getting ready to embrace that AI world. And those challenges could be many industries we work with are heavily regulated. So those regulatory compliance guidance may not be catching up with the emerging technologies. And so while those compliances are catching up and the guidance is catching up, a lot of organizations are kind of adopting that wait and see approach and see what happens in order to fully embrace those solutions that are coming to the marketplace. Another big aspect we're hearing about is cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And of course, all of the concerns that are emerging around potential data breaches and what to look for. And it's really hard to foresee what some of those challenges will be. So a lot of times, some companies opt to avoid the risk for now, or maybe delay the risk for now. And until those procurement policies that protect organizations from cybersecurity risks are developed, those AI platforms and solutions may not be fully embraced.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect might be leadership support, and leadership, of course, supporting AI might be focusing on other initiatives or other priorities. So data analytics falls a little bit by the wayside, and budget cycles may not be catching up with those required investments. And finally, it is a new market. It's a new technology, and skills and people possessing those skills to fully take advantage of those investments in AI are still kind of coming up to speed and coming through the school programs and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually heard an interesting quote recently, and it was said that 10 years ago, the smartest person in the room was the one who knew the most. And now the smartest person in the room is the one who can ask the best questions for AI. So
absolutely,
the world is changing.
The world is changing. So one of the things, in fact, it probably of interest to you, is that we're launching our beta course in SIG University around how to create an AI policy for your organization. And so it's from a procurement perspective, because procurement, we always get blamed if something goes wrong and we introduce risks to the supply chain. So how do we put parameters on what we buy for our internal customers? And then how do we put parameters or policies around what AI we can use within the procurement organization? And I think that's a really important step, because I don't know about you, but I know that, someone over here is using ChatGPT, someone else is using Gemini, somebody else is flirting with this, somebody else is using a procure-to-pay procure to pay platform that already has AI built into it.
That's right.
I bet marketing is using AI in all kinds of different ways, and yet we don't have a policy around it. So
we do not. We do not. And development of those policies, that's actually sounds like a useful course. I'd like to sign up, I think.
Yes. I thought it would be a great one. I mean, it just clicked. It's like, oh, you need to be in this class because you'd have some great questions to add to it. But so we've got all of these reasons you mentioned: regulatory, cyber, lack of skills, lack of leadership, lack of budget. So let's just say this is going to take a while to resolve, maybe a year, maybe two. In the meantime, this data still exists. So how do you work with your clients so they can still get to this data and find the value?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, long before AI even came into play and people started talking about it, organizations were taking advantage of procurement data, and they have to, and those solutions and those practices are still relevant in today's marketplace. And so there are very practical things that organizations can do and take advantage of, even as we're, I don't want to say waiting, but as the market is, or as procurement is catching up to the market and to the technological advances. And those practical things, it's really a range. And of course, data visibility, data analysis is an evolution and it's a journey. But some of the advice and some of the support we provide to our clients is around understanding that procurement data. So what are those procurement systems? How are you paying your suppliers? Are there legacy systems, different ERP systems that you acquired as you acquire companies? And getting a handle on all of the data is absolutely paramount to getting that data visibility and value from data, and actually using data as an asset, whether it's powered by AI or not. So knowing your systems, knowing what's important, are there contracts, are there third-party management, payments through third parties, and who are your stakeholders? Kind of understanding all of those things and putting all of those building blocks, keeping track of all of that information where data resides is actually a crucial first step in getting value from data and getting visibility. Another thing that, of course, needs to be done once you have that good view of what your systems are, once you start collecting the data, making sure the data is actually correct. And it's actually impossible to overstate the importance of that step. Usually finance or system owners, they have a good knowledge of how much spend should be flowing through the system. And oftentimes when we start extracting data, start looking at it, that doesn't actually meet those kinds of expectations. And there are, of course, many reasons for it. It could be, the extract was incorrect, wrong field was extracted, currency conversion wasn't done correctly, there's noise in the data that needs to be eliminated. And so getting understanding of, how much you're expecting to spend and how much spend you're seeing through the system and through all of your data sources, that is just such a crucial step. I just cannot overstate the importance of it. And we spend quite a bit of time when we work with clients validating that data, because we all have those embarrassing stories when you present the report and somebody says, this does not look right. And you want to avoid that as much as possible.
Yes. But you're right, though. Having been in procurement for all these years, I do see that, depending on what system I pull and how I design my download, I do get different information from different systems, whether it be cash versus accrual versus how something is coded. So it is so important that you do these analytics to validate all this data. So I cannot agree more that otherwise we're filled with all of these not truisms that people start to get reactionary to. And it's, like you said, you draw the wrong conclusion, you start the wrong project, you lose credibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, it builds comfort. So you present the results and you can say with confidence, yes, so-and-so validated this. These are the things that are missing from the data. We are aware of them. Data is not complete, or these were the challenges. These are the shortcuts we had to take. But this is the confidence in the information, and it goes such a long way for procurement to get that credibility and to present the information that people trust. And that's ultimately what it's about when it comes to data analytics.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So can you share something about categorization taxonomies? Because I think everyone has their own mindset, I would say, or their own views as to what a taxonomy should look like. So are there different approaches that you guys support?
Absolutely. And of course, my answer when it comes to data analytics is always, it depends. And of course, when it comes to categorization taxonomy, that's one of my favorite topics, actually. But when we work with our clients and work with companies, that's such a big step in getting to that level of granularity or level of visibility that the company actually needs. And oftentimes what we propose to clients is to make their taxonomy procurement centric. So it's not based on how finance views it or how somebody else views it. It is for procurement. It is granular enough that when you look at that lowest level, you can build a sourcing event or a spend management event around it. It needs to be flexible enough. It needs to be specific enough to how your organization views it. And, we suggest that teams stay away from how spend is managed right now or functional view of the spend, because ultimately it's about procurement, who buys what from whom. And really kind of getting that visibility at that level is what allows you to proceed with those spend management events and initiatives. So taxonomy is, of course, it's a topic we could probably spend the whole conversation on.
I mean, you're so right, though, because, as a recovering CPA, it was very important to translate how finance sees a spend item and how procurement needs to see a spend item.
Absolutely.
And, and to get people to understand that a general ledger code doesn't have much to do with the activity, the underlying activity that is produced or done to produce this cost. And so, by lumping something into, indirect spend around, let's say, services, doesn't tell me anything what the services are and where I can impact services.
Exactly.
When you have a general ledger code that's so broad. So I think it's really important for people to understand that the ERPs are doing a financial taxonomy. And as procurement, we can't speak to GL codes. Now we have to track back our savings and our impacts back to the general ledger. So we do have to map them back, but we don't manage spend from a finance perspective. We manage spend as to where it's spent today.
Procurement. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I've had many conversations over the years about benefits of different taxonomies. Should you go custom? Should you go industry standard? And, there, of course, every time the answer is whatever is right for your organization. And we, as procurement consulting, we work with companies to make sure that we classify spend for them, or they classify spend, that taxonomy meets their specific needs. And I think that's kind of the bottom line when it comes to that.
Yeah. So one of the things that we also want to track from a savings perspective are organizational goals. And so I used to always describe it as sort of a pyramid, where at the very top we have the board of directors and the shareholders. But sharing, trying to save cents per kilowatt hour or savings for a shareholder doesn't tell me what to do at an organization level. So to me, they cascade. They go down to the business units. The business units then say, I'm going to be looking at reducing, let's say, my capital spend or my operation and maintenance spend, my O&M spend. And then those organization goals from my business units should then translate as to what I'm trying to drive from my spend analytics and my sourcing activities. Right. So would you agree on that? And then do you have any examples of organization goals that procurement, data analytics, and spend analysis can support?
Absolutely. So, of course, every organization is different and the goals evolve over time. So, what's important today is not going to be important 6 months from now. So, when we go through all of those activities, collecting data, preparing data, cleansing data, it's important to keep in mind what's kind of coming down the line, right? So, what am I trying to do today? What am I going to try to do in 6 months? So you kind of keep an eye on the future, even as you start today. And today, your goal might be just reducing backlog, and
Mhm.
maybe your analysis is centered on performance metrics or cycle times. How long does it take you to take requisition to PO, PO to an invoice, and award to actual usage? But then next, maybe in 2 or 3 months, you want to understand really kind of where you're spending money. And in that case, spend analysis and opportunity assessment, understanding your categories, where your savings might come from. That
Mhm.
becomes that kind of next thing that the analytics is working towards. And then once those sourcing events take place, category management comes into play. And then, of course, that's a completely different
Mhm.
sources of data and volume of data for that matter. So analytics really supports everything, corporate programs around tail spend management, or even working capital optimization. All of those can be and are supported by procurement data analytics. So getting through those building blocks and really kind of developing all of those pieces, understand where your data is, collecting it, confirming that it's correct, preparing to classify it in the right way and organize it in the right way, visualize it in the right way. All of those are kind of the process of getting your ducks in a row so that when those AI solutions come into play, you're well prepared to take full advantage of them.
So there's also a point too that I would say that you have to communicate with your business unit stakeholders and make sure that the goals that we put in place in procurement are delivering to the goals that our business unit has. That I think there's that mismatch where sometimes in procurement we just focus on, well, everybody wants savings. Well, not maybe they don't want savings. Maybe it's a
Yep.
quality issue that's really driving them, or a performance issue. And savings is a nice to have, but that's not their number one driver. So if we push savings, 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 and we're not listening to the quality and performance issues, we're missing what makes our business unit successful. And
Yep.
if and without making them successful, we can't be successful. So do you agree with that?
Yes, yes, I wholeheartedly do. And of course, the last few years with COVID has, if it's taught us anything, is that savings may not be there and they're not the most important thing. Sometimes just getting those goods or those services in the door is what needs to happen. So in that case, tracking your inventory levels from analytics standpoint, or
Exactly.
tracking delivery schedules, what have you, that kind of becomes the focus of procurement data analytics, and the focus shifts. So there are geopolitical factors, there are economic factors, and there are organizational goals, whatever they may be. And yes, you're right. Not always they're getting savings. Sometimes it's cash flow. So the important part for analytics within procurement organization is kind of being prepared to address those things and staying agile too, and understanding how will you support those evolving goals.
And the world is changing so fast. So we know the goals are going to be changing and they're going to be moving targets. I mean, we just
For
know that.
sure. Yep.
Yeah. So tell me then, do you believe, well, I don't want to set you up for the wrong answer. I know that you probably would agree with me, is that we don't look at the tail spend enough. And there's so much potential risk in our tail because we don't spend time analyzing it. And I'm excited about AI because,
Yep.
I don't know about you, but in procurement, if somebody gave me $100,000 category to go manage in the tail, I'd be like, oh, come on. I want the $1 billion category. I want the
Yeah.
sexy stuff. I don't want
Yep.
to look at the $100,000 worth of agreements. And yet that is where we can have so much introduction of risk.
Yep.
So I am really hoping that AI really does solve our tail spend risk management issue. So I would assume you agree with that, right?
I do agree with that. And I think there is a lot of opportunity. And of course, that's an evolving space. And actually, we're seeing a lot from clients. And even the last year or two, there is so much more light shining on those tailspin management programs and the solutions that are evolving. Um, in a lot of ways, it's going to be about trying to optimize those processes and taking those time-consuming tasks away from humans. And of course, that could be solved and managed with AI. And that's an evolving space, very much so. But I'm excited to see what's coming in the next year or two, or
Good.
maybe
Now,
even
we
sooner.
have a couple questions that came in from the audience. So I am going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce a couple of these. An interesting one. What technologies and tools can improve your data quality, accuracy, and availability of procurement analytics? Do you have specific tools that you recommend?
Well, of course, there are a lot of tools in the marketplace. Oftentimes, it's actually processes and expertise from people. So data quality, data accuracy, the automation of classification and understanding the data and diving into the data, whatever tools are best at it. Sometimes it's just a good way to combine your suppliers or normalize your suppliers. So those good matching algorithms that allow you to create that a leveraged supplier spend view from different disparate data sources. Of course, there are AI tools right now coming into marketplace around classification, ML algorithms that allow you to classify spend, even Gen AI to understand what your suppliers are providing. So
So another question is, so do you believe that AI can help the transaction transparency at an organization level?
Well, what do you think transaction transparency means?
Yeah, so to me, it would be identifying, maybe rogue spend. It's identifying, I think AI can go in and say, this is an outlier, this is an anomaly. We need to get, more focus on something because it's not fitting the normal pattern. So to me, it hopefully is, the use of AI and by using, especially the Gen AI, it's going to say, wait, we've got these outliers. This spend doesn't make sense. This spend, it shouldn't be categorized this way. It's not making sense. So let's spend a little more time investigating it. So I would think yes, because I think it's easier for an AI engine to look for abnormalities than it is for the human eye to see those patterns.
That's right. And I think humans would need to define what those business rules are and what presents an anomaly or what to look for an algorithm. But yeah, algorithms are the ones who can run through the data and identify those challenges in the data based on the rules that we tell it to.
Exactly. So if there was one takeaway that you want to leave with everybody from our conversation today, what would that be?
So I think the most important piece is to understand that the future is here, or at the very least, it's coming very soon. And the preparation is key, whether or not you're ready to take full advantage of it. Really kind of getting to those building blocks of knowing your data, understanding it, confirming that it's right, and understanding what might be those organizational initiatives and preparing for the data to support them. Those are kind of the key pieces. So I'm excited about the future. I'm looking forward to see what's coming. And in the meantime, of course, there are a lot of things that we can do to prepare for the future.
Yeah, and I will say ProcureAbility has some amazing white papers, studies that you've done and everything else. So folks, we will make sure that you get the contact information for Yelena, but you need to go on their website. You need to look and download some of their white papers. They have some of the best ones out there. But then also, get connected. find Yelena on LinkedIn. Make sure you're a connection with her. Make sure that we have a lot of these conversations. And I would say, Yelena, one of the things I would ask everyone to do as well is stay open-minded. AI is not going away. And it's really going to allow us to do more with fewer people, which is going to be, which is a mantra we've been hearing for the last 20 years, do more with less. Mm-hmm. And it is going to make us more efficient, but we have to make sure that we have the right guardrails around our AI and our use of AI and the right policies. So, yeah, so I'm excited about the future too. And I would just ask everybody, just stay open to it. This is not the time to put up a wall and say, I'm not going to allow AI, because AI is here. And whether or not your company's adopting it yet, or you're getting into the process of looking at policies and everything else, join us for our beta class, help put together your own policies around it. But then at some point, you've got to pull the trigger and enter this new world. So,
and we're all here to support you in this.
Exactly. I mean, if you need somebody to make you feel safe, call Yelena and she'll make you feel safe. She'll help your organization through it. So with that, Yelena, I want to thank you for your time today, and we'll make sure people have the contact information for you. And once again, I want to thank ProcureAbility. You're just an amazing company, and you bring us the best experts possible. And folks, if you have questions that we didn't get to today, we'll make sure Yelena gets them. But I always like to keep these under a half hour, because that's about when people start to tune out. So with that, Yelena, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It was such a pleasure, and just delighted to be here today.
Thank you.